Hi, I'm John Schneider with Mass Insight Education, and I'm very pleased to be joined tonight by Dr. Kimberly Frazier-Booth, who is an AP Literature and Language teacher at the Edward M. Kennedy Academy for Health Careers in the Boston Public Schools, as you can see by the lovely yard sign behind Kimberly. Really good advertising for the school.
Yes, well, it was one way of our headmaster thanking all of the staff for our work during the outbreak of the epidemic. So I figured it was a good use for it.
Good. Speaking of the outbreak of the pandemic, how is it going? These are certainly very challenging times for teachers.
I think it's challenging to adapt day to day to all the different changes. One of the things that there was a lot of training on was all these sort of bells and whistles programs that you could incorporate into the classroom. And after looking at those and going to a lot of trainings, I've actually fallen back on I have a little overhead projector that I can connect to my computer and having my students just trace out their rhetorical triangles on paper like they've been doing so that they have that under their belt when they're ready for the exam next May.
Old school technology for current times, right?
It works, and some of the kids have adapted and are doing it on slides, but really a lot of the kids are grateful to be able to just trace it out with pen and paper. And the one thing is paper and pencil doesn't lose internet connection.
That is correct. That's correct. There's something that's still great about the printed word in a book in terms of technology that's been able to last a long time. So, Kimberly, we're here tonight to talk about a new initiative at Mass Insight, our AP Teachers of Color Advisory Council, and you've become a member of the group, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about why you decided to join the advisory council and some of the challenges that face teachers of color, especially AP teachers of color, and some of the things that you'd like to see the advisory council work on over the course of the year. So, but before we get to that, just tell me a little bit about your background and how you ended up teaching at EMK.
Well, I was actually a journalism major in undergrad back in 19. And
Back when we had print papers, right?
actually, you're not far off. They used to still rip papers off of the AP machines to get our news.
Okay.
So I am that old. Thank you for bringing that up. But after about 10 years in that business, I really got frustrated by reporting stories about how students of color weren't doing well in school. I come from a long line of teachers, and we're talking generations of teachers, and it's always sort of been something that I've gravitated towards as much as I've tried to avoid it. In fact, my mother had a great laugh when I told her I was going back to get a master's degree in teaching, and she just went, very knowing.
So she must have, when you got your doctorate, she must have.
Well, unfortunately, the spacing was such that she was no longer with us when I got to the doctorate. But my youngest brother, or my older brother, but my youngest brother, they were alive to see him get his. So we have a unique situation in our family where I'm not the first, I'm not the trailblazer, but I am in a family that's always treasured and valued education. And so going into the education field, both my mother and father both were teachers for well over 20 years. My dad, over 30 years in the Philadelphia public schools. And so it was a natural move to go from journalism into teaching and try to really make a difference and be on the front lines instead of just reporting on statistics.
And how long have you been teaching advanced placement?
I know it's over 10 years. I've lost track of time. At this point, it starts to run together, but it's been well over 10 years now.
And what are some of the challenges that you faced as a AP teacher, specifically as a AP teacher of color, as a Black professional, working in the schools?
Well, one of the things, it's interesting, you asked me how long I've been an AP teacher. I've been a teacher for 20 years. And so only half of that time has been AP. And one of the things is newer teachers don't usually get afforded the opportunity to teach AP right away. It's usually a very coveted position. It's reserved for the best and the brightest, if you will. Not just, it's curating the teachers as well as curating the students. My school has taken a different approach, and we are trying to move to AP for all, but we're not quite there yet. The reason why I give you that background, though, is that by the time you're in position to actually apply for and be one of the AP instructors, some time has cycled through. And so you got to think, if you know the statistics of people leaving the profession after 5 years, all of those kind of statistics, to have the longevity to be able to become an AP teacher is a challenge that faces many instructors, not just instructors of color.
What are some of the challenges that are facing your school, EMK, as you look to implement AP for all?
Well, just making sure students are well prepared. A lot of times I'm in these rooms and in these conversations about AP, and you're talking about how do we recruit students of color to even take AP. My school is all students of color. I think the white population is definitely under 10% of the population. It is 60% Latinx and almost 40% African American or Black students, because we have a very strong Caribbean population. We have a strong population of students from Africa, first generation students from Africa. So it's not a matter of finding students, but it's students who have different backgrounds, and looking at students who are then English language learners. Students who may be first in their family to be looking at going to college. And so the narrative, we started off by saying, I'm not even the first in my family to get a doctorate, let alone the first in my family to go to college. That was just an expectation for my family. And I realized that's a position of privilege, but for many of my students, they don't have that same luxury.
So really, building and strengthening that pathway from middle school into high school, exposure to the rigorous curriculum that comes with an AP program, and then an opportunity to pursue college education is that's really the work that you're involved in doing.
Yes, we consider ourselves a college preparatory school, so our goal is to make sure every student has a college experience. My head of school always says, it's not if you're going to school or if you're going to go to college, but what college are you going to go to? So that's the narrative, that's the language we use in our school around students. And still, I have students that come into an AP class and there's this look of terror on their face. What am I doing here? I'm not supposed to be here. This is not for me, because no one has ever said AP is for you. And so you can see right there one of the issues of, if you don't have teachers of color who are like, no, it is for you. Here's my experience, here's my walk, and here's what it looks like. If there's not a lot of teachers like that, then it still feels sometimes off-putting. And again, not to try to diminish the work of colleagues who are white by any means whatsoever. Certainly, I think a diverse experience with teachers of all backgrounds, creeds, and races is important. But to see teachers of color in all echelons of the school, I think is important. And I think that's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, it's an issue we've recognized certainly at Mass Insight, and one of the reasons why we're working this year to establish this advisory council. And what made you interested in signing up to be part of the advisory council?
Well, just the excitement around focusing on this and trying to diversify who is doing this work. To make room. It's not to push out, but it's really to make room for more diverse faces in the room. So again, I have 60% of my students are Latinx. And I am not from a Latinx or Hispanic background. So I would love to have teachers from Latinx backgrounds who could also come in and do this work. When we talk about AP for All, it means that every teacher in my school is on board and is trained to teach AP and understands the value of this pre-AP and AP curriculum. The students I find myself maybe proudest of are not the students who get qualifying scores, but the students who really have to grapple with and wrestle with AP. And then I get the letters every year. And it's funny, this year, the first one came in and I said, here's my first one. And it was a student and she was emailing me and she said, we had an activity in class and I was the only one who knew what the professor meant when he said rhetorically analyze this piece. And this student got a 2 on the exam, but this student really wrestled with AP language last year and was so excited that she could help the group and she understood the language, what the professor was talking about. And not just to pass the test, but just because she could understand the piece more thoroughly because she had been trained to kind of go through and look at a piece step by step, increment by increment.
What are a couple of things you'd like to see the advisory council take on over the course of this academic year?
I mean, we've been talking about a little bit about how do we set priorities. I think just really bringing more teachers of color on board. When I go to training programs, I look around the room and it's a lot of white female colleagues. I think that's the profession.
Yeah.
And so again, that's who is in the room. But way over there is another African-American person. Way over there is somebody who might be Indian, from, you know, an Indian, the country India background. I rarely in this setting run into Native American instructors. I'm in another group where I do see teachers from Native American background, and amazing how much I learned from them. And so I would love to see more people from those diverse backgrounds in the room, first and foremost, because then those people are also going to be out to our kids. And I don't think it's important just for a school like mine that's predominantly students of color. But I think it's important for white students in suburban schools to also have access to diverse teachers so that they learn about different experiences and they can kind of vet their perspectives through people with various backgrounds and various perspectives. I'd also like to see more leadership. There are a few people in the pipeline who I've gotten to see deliver AP training programs. But again, ironically, despite the fact that it's very heavy, the profession is just heavily white females, many of the people who are doing the AP trainings and courses are white males. And so in terms of the diversity, in terms of who we're hearing from as instructors is also a little thin. So I'd like to see that diversified as well. And more importantly, again, not diversity for diversity's sake, but if you look at the College Board, I have to say that the passages, the selections, College Board is not tone deaf. College Board has definitely been adding more diverse selections. They've been broadening who we hear from. So there was a piece a few years ago from Cesar Chavez, and one of my favorite passages is Alfred Green, who is a revolutionary, no, was it Revolutionary War? No, Civil War. A Civil War recruiter, essentially, trying to recruit his fellow African Americans why they should sign up for war. So I think it's really interesting, the rhetorical history of African Americans in this country, of other people of color in this country. And so I think working together, we can continue to emphasize the fidelity of the curriculum.
Well, I want to thank you for all your work. I look forward to working with you over the course of the next few months and other members of the advisory council. It's really important work, and we need leaders like you to guide us and help us accomplish some of the goals that you talked about tonight. So thank you for taking some time this evening, Kimberly, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.